Hello, this is Mr. Yoon, and today we are going to be learning about the intercepts of a function. And the key phrase for today is x-intercept is when y is 0, and y-intercept is when x is 0. So I know yet this does not make a whole lot of sense, but please keep this in mind. So before we get to the main part of the lesson, um, so the whole lesson is going to be focusing on what intercept is in math. And the very interesting thing about math is that the words that we use in math is very similar, has a very similar definition to how we use it in daily life, just in the context of math. So let's think about when we have heard the word intercept in real life. The easiest example that I can think of is during sports. For example, we say the ball has been intercepted in basketball when a player steals a ball in the middle of the pass. Or same as football. Or in case of, in the context of, maybe a spy operation that you've seen in the movie, they say they have intercepted the signal because they managed to take the signal in the midway. So so please keep that in mind. So what does the intercept mean in the context of math? So in math, intercepts mean the point where the graph of the function meets the axis. So naturally, in the 2D coordinate plane, the Cartesian coordinate plane that we're used to see, naturally most functions will have two different intercepts because there are two different axes. So there is x-intercept and a y-intercept. So x-intercept is a point where the graph meets the x-axis, and y-intercept is the point where the function meets the y-axis. So let's try to look at this in the graph. So let's try to find the x and y intercepts on the graph. So this over here says identify the x and y intercepts and write as an ordered pair. So ordered pair is the coordinate that we used to see as x, y in a bracket. So over here, again, intercepts mean where this graph meets the axis over here. So let's try to find the x-intercept first. So over here, x-intercept is the point where this line meets the x-axis, which is over here. So where does it meet? It meets the function at this point over here. And what would the coordinate of that point be? So the coordinate of that point, the x is at 2 and y coordinate is 0. So the x-intercept is at the point 2, 0. And what about the y-intercept? So y-intercept over here, y-intercept is the point where this graph will meet the y-axis, so where this line meets this line over here, so which is this point over here. So what is my y-intercept? What's the x-coordinate of that point? X-coordinate is equal to 0, and the y-coordinate is equal to -2. So my y-intercept is at 0 and -2. Let's try to do one more. So over here, I have, let's try to find the x-intercept first. So x-intercept, again, is the point where this line over here meets the x-axis over here, which is this point over here. So again, what is the x-intercept? It is going to be the x-coordinate is 2 and y-coordinate is 0. So the x-intercept is at the point 2, 0. And y-intercept is at the point where the graph meets the y-axis, which is this point over here, which has the coordinates 0 and 2. So from here, do you notice anything? Over here, we can see that for x-intercept, the y-coordinate is always equals to 0. And the y-intercept, the x-coordinate is always equal to 0. Why? Because y-intercept is going to occur on this y-axis, which has... So, keeping that in mind, knowing that and remembering our key phrase helps us now to find out the x and y-intercept when we're just given the function without the graph. So let's try to find the x-intercept of 2x plus 3y is equal to 6. So what is my x-intercept? X-intercept is when y is equal to 0. So all I have to do is just replace the y over here with the 0 and find out what my x is. So I'm just going to rewrite this equation with 0 instead of y. Then what do I get? I get 2x plus 3 times 0 is equal to 6. And 3 times 0 is 0, so that will disappear. And we're left with a very simple equation, 2x is equal to 6. What does that mean? I will divide both sides by 2, and I will arrive at x is equal to 3. So what is my x-intercept? My x-intercept occurs at the point 3, 0. Now, let's try to find the y-intercept. So my y-intercept occurs when x is equal to 0. What does that mean? I will replace this x with a 0 and try to solve for y. So 2 times 0 plus 3y is equal to 6. And again, 2 times 0 is 0, so we're going to be just left with 3y is equal to 6. And we will divide both sides by 3, and we are just left with y is equals to 2. And that means that my y-intercept occurs when at the point 0, 2. So now with this information, since I know 2 points on the graph, I can actually just draw these 2 points and easily graph this function on the grid. So first point that I have is 3 zeros, which will be something like here. And the second point that I have is 0, 2, which is going to be here. And all I would have to do is just draw a line that goes through those 2 points. And I will have the graph of this function over here. So now let's try to do one more example. So one more example. My next question is 2x minus 7 is equals to y. So let's try to find the x-intercept first. So again, my x-intercept is when y is equals to 0. So then y is 0. So I'm just going to simply replace this y with the 0, and now we will be left with 2x minus 7 is equals to 0. And how do we solve for x here? I will first plus 7 on both sides, and I will get 2x is equals to 0. Oh, 2x is equal to 7. And then what do? I will divide both sides by 2. And my answer will be x is equals to 7 over 2. What does that mean? My x-intercept is at the point 7 over 2 and 0. Now, let's try to do y-intercept. Y-intercept occurs when x is equals to 0. And so all I have to do is just replace x with the 0. So then I get 2 times 0 minus 7 is equals to y. And this is now there is nothing to solve. All we have to do is just do simple order of operation, and we will find our y coordinate. Then what do I get? I get 2 times 0 is 0, minus 7 is equals to y. And what is 0 minus 7? That is minus 7 is equals to y. What does that mean? That means that my y-intercept is at the point 0, negative 7. And if I were to be asked to graph this with these two information, I will just simply draw a grid, plot these 2 points, which will be, first one is at 7 over 2 and 0, so it will be here. And my next point is over here at 0 and negative 7. And I will just draw a line that goes through those 2 points. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.